Jagrata, Jai Masters. Eventually, you catch on that if you don't do something, your life is going to be difficult. If you try to fix the inside with the outside, life is difficult. If there are issues inside, and you try to appease them, satisfy them, avoid them, anything you do, by using the outside and the experiences outside, it can't possibly work. The outside keeps changing. It's temporal. You keep changing. That which you wanted yesterday, you don't want today. That which you were afraid of yesterday, you think is neat now. Everything keeps changing. So there's no solidity. There's just constant flux. And that's what creates all the anxiety. You don't even know what you want, not to mention how to get it. You just know you're not okay, and sometimes you feel better and sometimes you feel worse, and you wish you could feel better. That's all. So a wise person wakes up right there and says, this isn't working. It's not going to work because I get married. It's not going to work because I have a kid. It's not going to work because I get rich. It's not going to work because I get a new house. It's not going to work because people like me. It's not going to work because I become world famous. It's not going to work. I can't put Band-Aids over what's wrong with me and then think I'm going to be fine. So we're going to talk very deep tonight about the process of liberation, the process of what does work. Let's call it that. I don't give it a name. There is something that does work, period. Guaranteed. It works. So what you start to see very clearly is that the problem is inside of you. That's the first step. The world unfolds and you can't handle it. That's a problem. But I mean, if you're talking to me and I can't handle what you're saying, is the problem with you or is the problem with me? If I'm watching something and I can't handle what I'm seeing, is the problem with what I'm seeing or is the problem with me? I should be able to see things and not freak out. I should be able to be talked to and not go south. The world is out there. It's real. It's going to go about its business. We've been through that a million times. We're going to go deeper tonight. But you have to understand, the world is going to change. The world is out there. It is marching to the beat of its own drum. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't ask what you want. It never has asked what you wanted. Nobody has asked. Nobody. The weather doesn't ask. The earth doesn't ask. God doesn't ask. Nobody asks you. So if you decide that the only way I'm going to be okay is to make up what I want and then try to make it be that way, you're not going to be okay. It's that simple. So you start with realizing that your lowest, most base position is, I have to be able to handle what's happening in front of me. And if you have trouble with that, why don't you just answer me what the alternative is? The alternative is I can't handle what's happening in front of me. How you doing? It's that simple. There's nothing to talk about. If you can't handle what's happening in front of you, you lose. Because you just admitted you can't handle it. That's what can't handle it means. I can't handle it. It's freaking me out. I'm having difficulty with this. So your beginning bottom line of growth is you have to take the attitude, I should be able to handle what is happening in front of me. Because the alternative is unacceptable. The alternative is that I'm freaking out and I'm not doing well and I'm having all kinds of problems. And I don't want to have the problems. So you look outside and you start with your first task is, I should be able to handle what's happening in front of me. And what you're going to find out is that you have some work to do. Because you can't handle what's unfolding in front of you a whole lot of the time. You can't handle it. It disturbs you. Things go on that freak you out. All right, so how do I do that? How do I deal with that? I'm telling you, your starting position is stop blaming the outside. The outside is the way it is, not because of your karma, not because God's getting even with you, not because, nothing, don't do that. The world is unfolding in accordance to the forces that cause it to be the way they are. There are influences that cause things to be the way they are. That's why things are the way they are. And there are hundreds of billions and zillions of influences. Even the influence right now that causes things to be the way they are has causes. So it just goes back through rolling through time and space, that everything unfolds and comes together and creates the current moment. So you start off by saying, I will always remember that that what is unfolding in front of me is what is. And if I can't handle it, there's something wrong with me. Not that there's something wrong with what's unfolding in front of me. There's something wrong with me. What do I do if there's something wrong with me? I fix it. Not I try to manipulate and control the world so it doesn't bother me. That's a non-starter. Because even if I succeed in getting you not to bother me, you will. Or the next time you show up, you'll find a way to bother me. There's no end to it. It doesn't stop. It's an endless process that somebody else will show up and bother you. Something else will show up and bother you. You can't end it by manipulating and controlling the world around you. You can only do it by saying, and this is a great being says this, first step on the path. It's just the first step. If I can't handle what is unfolding in front of me, there is something wrong with me. Not there is something wrong with what's unfolding in front of me. I'll repeat that. If I can't handle, no matter how terrible it is, I don't want terrible things to happen to you, but if they do, I want you to be able to handle them. Why? Because if terrible things happen outside, that's a terrible experience. If terrible things happen outside and inside, that's a double trouble. If terrible things happen outside and you can handle it and you're okay inside, well, you're way better off. And I want you to be better off. Okay, so I'm telling you, that's your starting position, is I am going to learn, I don't know how to do it now, but I'm going to learn how to handle everything that unfolds in front of me. Doesn't mean I can't do something about it. You're not helpless, but you are helpless. Here's where you're helpless. You don't want to be helpless. There's two places you are completely and utterly helpless. If you don't like the fact that the past happened, tough. You're helpless. Because it happened. There's nothing you're going to do about the fact that the past happened. That you can understand. Then there's one that's a little more subtle, but it's the same. What is unfolding in front of you already happened. It's already unfolded in front of you. You can't do anything about it. What's that expression? Oh, you can't cry over spilt milk. And if it's spilt, it's spilt. All right? So the moment of now is something you have to accept. Why? Because it already happened. Now, not the next moment. You can do something about the next moment. I'm not taking that away from you. But you can't do anything about the ones that already happened, and you can't do anything about the moment that just happened. Don't be fighting what you can't do anything about. So when something unfolds in front of me, I've taken the attitude, I'm going to devote my life to learning how to handle what is not liking, not rejoicing, just handling is good enough. I can handle what is unfolding in front of me. All right. Now I start off by saying you generally can't do that. Why? Because what unfolds in front of you comes into you through your senses, and then something happens on its way back to your awareness of being. If something happened and it made it back to your consciousness, oh, that too. Look what happened. Look what happened. I lost the tennis match. Somebody stole my car. You saw it? You see it? No. Okay. But that's not what happens. What happens is it comes in and it doesn't make it back to your consciousness first, to your awareness. It has to make it through your psyche. It has to make it through this veil that you have collected around yourself, that is the collection of all the things that happened to you that you liked and didn't like. You stored them in this veil of your psyche. So if something happened and it reminded you of this, by the time the event outside came in, it reminded you of some bad experience you had, reminded you of some good experience you had, then this whole psyche, your whole aura, your whole psychological thoughts and emotions, that's what will happen. Your mind and your heart, your thoughts and your emotions are going to start to emote and create thoughts and emotions. And those are what you experience instead of experiencing what actually happened. That is the foundation of spiritual growth, that you understand that. You are not experiencing what happened outside. You're experiencing your inner reaction to what happened outside. Somebody talks to you, then they leave. Before you can actually hear what they said, you have to listen to what you have to say about what they said. You have to listen to your complaints. You have to listen to your fears. You have to listen to your anxieties. And a lot of times you can't even hear what the other person says. You're too reactive. You freak out and you get all defensive and all that kind of stuff goes on. And then that's what you're experiencing. You're not experiencing what's going on out there. So that's why you can't handle it. When you go deep enough, you'll see it. It's not that you can't handle what happened. You can handle it. The car's gone. I can handle it. Okay. Doesn't mean I have to do something about it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to the police. Doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. It just means I handled it. Look, the car's gone. Now what do I do? Not, the car's gone, oh my God, why did they do it? It was my karma, oh my God, it must have been because I smoked when I said I wouldn't. What am I going to do? My wife will leave me because she really liked the car. She told me not to take. Oh my God, the car's gone. No, it's a whole melodrama. It's a whole freak out, isn't it? All the stuff inside your psyche goes bananas. It just starts making all this noise inside your mind and inside your heart. Does anybody know anything about that? So you can't experience what actually happened, not because you can't, because you're so reactive mentally and emotionally that you get lost in that. And the next thing you know, you're making all your decisions and doing all your things not based on what happened, but based on trying to survive the emotional reaction and mental reaction you had to what's happening. If you understand that, you're almost there. You're almost there. This is what's happening, isn't it? So you have to learn to do better than that. It doesn't mean you have to learn that your car will never get stolen. It just means things will unfold in the world. And you know what? There's going to be some mental and emotional reactions. It's just the way it works. If you store stuff inside of you, it'll clean out over time. But if you stored stuff inside of you, then that stuff's going to come back up when something reminds you of it. If you had an argument with your wife in the morning, I want to take your car, I want to take your car, and you took her car and it got stolen, you got two problems. Okay? The car is missing and you don't want to go home. Okay? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Your mind is causing you trouble. You know what I'm talking about. You must focus on this. So your decision is, you either sit there and say, I need to learn to handle what happens, otherwise I can't, and I'm going to be a mess. I don't want to be a mess, but I don't know how to right now. And that's what your whole growth experience is about, learning. It's not about achieving some state of enlightenment or something like that. Give up on that. Don't even think about it. It all happened naturally if you do what I'm talking to you about. You don't have to ever think about it. I wish you had never even heard the word. Okay? That's all. It's like, what if you didn't know how to fall asleep? Someone told you there was such a thing as sleeping, having trouble sleeping. There's nothing you're going to do to make you to fall asleep. The very act of doing it keeps you awake. Am I asleep yet? All right, let me see. You can't make yourself fall asleep. It's a natural process. All of the spiritual states are natural processes. There's nothing you should be doing to force your way through that. So basically, you have to look and see. The world unfolds. It hits your stuff. Now what? Now you got some work to do. What do you mean? You have 3 places you can work, but only one works. One is try to keep the world from doing things that hit your stuff. Good luck. Please don't try anymore. I hope you've seen enough. All right? Second, try to keep your mind and your heart from being reactive when the world unfolds. Try to achieve the quiet mind and the still heart. I'm telling you, don't even try. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. The mind reacts because you stored stuff inside of it that's reactive. You put bombs in there. You stored, what's it called? Improvised explosive devices. You stored things in there that blow up. You stored soft spots that when something happens, it hits them. Well, it is only natural that if you have soft spots in there and reactive spots in there and explosive things in there, that when things happen and it hits them, they're going to make some noise. They're going to explode. It's not all about trying to make explosives not explode. It's about being able to handle it. Now, if you want to stop storing stuff in there, I highly advise that. I hope you catch on at some point and realize I'm working against myself. Every single time something happens that bothers me, I store it inside myself, don't you? I don't like it. I don't want it to happen, so I hold it away from myself. That act of holding it away from yourself keeps it inside of you, and it becomes an explosive spot. Have somebody say something that makes you uncomfortable. Come back 2 days later, 3 days later, 10 days later, and see the person again. See how you feel. You left a soft spot inside. You need to learn not how to not have the situation happen because it's not in your control. Not how to not have what's already explosive inside of you react emotionally or mentally. It's going to happen. You can work with it some. I'm not saying none. But do not think that what spiritual growth means is that events happen outside and nothing happens inside. In the end, that can happen. But that is not your path. And if you try to force your way through that, you will never succeed. You'll have a good weekend meditation somewhere, but where do you see the rest of your life? It is not the natural way to walk this path. So what is it? You need to be able to handle what happened. Well, I don't understand. I handled the event took place. Now this reaction took place. And so you have to be able to handle that. That's the third way. One is to try and stop it from happening. Good luck. The second is to stop the mind or the heart from reacting when you have all this junk inside of you. Good luck. The third is the great way. It's the great way. It makes me cry to even talk about it. Who said that you can't handle that the event happened and it caused your mind and your heart to react? You're in there, aren't you? You notice? Oh my God, since he said that, my mind's driving me crazy. Since he left my heart, it hurts so much, it feels like 1,000 pounds are in my heart. Okay. Can you handle that? Because that's what it means to handle what happened. That you handle the event and you handle the reaction that the mind and the heart naturally went through because you have this stuff stored in there. Now, can you, the witness, the consciousness, the awareness of being, notice this is what's happening inside of me right now? It won't stay. It's never stayed. I've been through all kinds of things. I've been through all kinds of emotional things. I've been through all kinds of mental things. Sometimes your mind puts you through such hell, and then you find out that what it was talking about didn't even happen. Right or wrong. You need to hold it accountable for what it does to you. Somebody doesn't call you for a half hour when they say they're going to call. Will you please look what your mind puts you through? Trying to guess what happened to them, or why aren't they calling? Do they not love you anymore? Did they get in an accident? Should you call the police? No, they won't like you. My God, and then you find out nothing happened. It was your anniversary and you've forgotten. They were picking up flowers and they were a little late because of the traffic. And then you don't even hold your mind accountable. And here for a half hour, giving you a hard time. And then it turns out nothing but happened. Nothing happened. You need to hold it accountable. You sit there and say, oh yeah? So you listen to you next time. And so you learn over time that the trouble the mind is creating and the difficulty that the heart is happening are not your problem. It's just there's some leftover stuff in there, and it causes the mind to say things, and it causes the heart to feel things. Have you noticed? So what? I don't have to listen. I don't listen. That's what you need to learn. So I told you there's 3 places you can work. This thing I told you, first step is, can I handle what's happening? This is how you handle what's happening. Not by trying to stop it from happening. Okay? That's not handling it. That's avoiding it and resisting it. And not by trying to stop all the reaction that goes on inside. Because if you have stuff in there, it's going to hit it. If you throw a rock into the water, there are going to be ripples. What do I do? What do I do? I don't like the ripples. I liked it when it was quiet. Well, you can go around and get rid of all the rocks. I don't think it was too good. You can figure out how to not have the ripples happen when the rock hits the water. I don't think it's going to work too good. I could smooth it out with my hands. I could jump in and catch the rocks. Yeah, that'll stop it. Or I can learn to handle the moment when there are ripples. Oh my God, do you see the difference? One, I'm running around trying to rid the entire world of rocks. The other, I'm causing so many ripples by trying to catch everything that would have caused a ripple. I'm causing the ripple. It's such a perfect analogy. Do you understand that? Or I just sit there and realize, oh, to everything there's a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. This must be the time for ripples. And guess what will happen to the ripples if you leave them alone? They will go away. Why? It's the nature of things. They ripple themselves out. They're gone. There's nothing you can do to get rid of those ripples faster than leaving them alone. It is exactly the same within yourself. If you can handle that your mind is reacting and your heart is emoting these difficult emotions, they're difficult to feel, and I'm not questioning that, but you can feel them, you're just feeling them. That's the most important thing you will ever hear or learn. You are capable of sitting in there and relaxing while your heart is releasing what is coming up inside of it. And while your mind is spewing the thoughts and all the kind of junk it talks about to try and not have to handle what's happening. It's all your mind's talking about. How could she say that? She shouldn't have said that. I never treated her like that. Oh my God, why would a person be like that to me? I didn't do it. What do you think that is? That is basically saying, I can't handle what she said. You understand that? I can't handle what she said. And so my mind is trying to offset what she said by creating all these thoughts. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I won't talk to her again. She says she feels. She'll understand what it's like to talk to somebody like that. Like anything it says, I won't talk to her again. I'll let her have it next time. I'll tell somebody else. I've got to go call a friend so I feel better. Whatever it says, what it's saying is, I can't handle this. That's what it's saying. I can't handle this. Therefore, I'm trying to think of a way that I can. But the very fact that you have to think of a way that you can means you can't. Because you can handle it means somebody said something, the mind made some noise, and you go about your business. I can handle it. I don't mind. And the same thing with the heart. Can you handle the fact that sometimes the heart hurts? Can you handle the fact that sometimes the heart feels scared, you sometimes feel insecure, sometimes you feel embarrassed, you feel a little bit jealous, you feel a little left out, you feel whatever the heck it is. The heart does go through things like that. What will happen is, if you can learn to handle it, then it's just like the ripples in the water. Because you're not touching it and getting involved in it and devoting your life to your mess, is what you're doing, it will pass. Everything passes. Everything passes. Nothing stays. There's not a single emotion you ever had that stayed. Not a single thought you ever had that stayed. It all passes in time. Every single thing comes and goes unless you don't let it. If you suppress it or you hold on to it, then it stays in there. Okay? Now we're going step by step. So first you understand that you're not going to solve your problem by getting the world the way you want. Then you decide to work on yourself. And the way you work on yourself is what I told you, which is, I can handle what's unfolding in front of me. And then if you see that you can't, you do something about it. What do you do about it? You practice being able to. You practice being able to. I can't even tell you I used to be very ridiculously strict. I don't advise it in any way, shape, or form. But the tiniest little things, like you're eating something, you really like it. Cover your ears, you don't hear this. Leave a piece on the plate. Just for kicks. Just for kicks. Just so that you can. Just so that you win. And if he doesn't want to leave the piece on the plate, guess what? That's too bad. We're leaving the piece on the plate. And if he freaks out when the plate's going away and he wants the piece and he keeps talking, good. Practice what it's like. I mean, come on. What's the cost? It doesn't have to be a big piece. How big does that have to be? Just enough to bother him. Just enough to get that thing going. All right? And then practice letting it go. These are innocent moments where nothing's happening. You can just let go. Practice. Somebody says something to you. Somebody doesn't say something to you. You know darn well the mind's going to say something about it. But it's nothing important and you don't know what's going on. Practice being okay with the fact that the mind gets upset about the tiniest little things. Driving behind someone who's driving too slow or too fast or a way you don't want to. The rain starts coming down when you don't want it to. The traffic light changes when you're in a rush. There are so many things, aren't there, that can cause the cutie little mind to start getting disturbed. I want you to practice 24/7. I want you to practice being okay with the little things the mind says. Because if you're okay with them, then you're okay. If I'm okay with the fact that sometimes there are ripples, I'm not disturbed by the ripples. What do I care? Every once in a while, the mind pukes. Fine, I've seen it. How many times have you seen it? Come on, give me a break. You don't have to do anything about it. Sometimes the heart hurts. You don't have to do anything about it. You do not want to devote your life to trying to make your heart not hurt. If the heart needs to hurt once in a while, fine, as long as I'm free to do what I want. So I'm a free being. Some people are so scared of the heart, feeling afraid or jealous or insecure, that they can't do anything. They avoid relationships. They avoid going places. They don't get on airplanes because they get scared. And all of a sudden, the weakest part of your being is running your life. That is not how you should live. So the only way is not to push it away and not to create things that don't bother it. It's to just say, fine, sometimes the heart's going to hurt. Big deal. That's what you got to say. And sometimes the mind is going to say stupid things, I guarantee you, about getting even, and how can somebody do this, and being a baby, whatever it does. And so what? I don't care. I don't care. That's where you need to get. How do you get there? That's your business. You have to want to enough in order to do it. Does meditation help? Of course meditation helps. How can it not help? What you're doing when you meditate is taking time aside from all the stuff that you do outside to try and be okay and sit down and say, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to work directly on myself. And what techniques you use is your business, but that's what meditation is. It is the act of coming inside and working directly on yourself. If you want to try and control your mind, fine. Follow whatever techniques you want. You want to try and control your heart, fine. I'm telling you, and someday, it may take lifetimes, you will catch on that it's right, the highest thing you can do is leave it alone. If you're sitting there meditating, watch your breath. Don't fight with your mind and don't fight with your heart. Just watch your breath. Let's say your heart closes. Somebody said something, your heart's all closed. Do not sit down to meditate and try to open your heart. Sit down and get your consciousness off of the whole thing. Just sit there and watch your breath. And next thing you know, your heart will open. You don't try to stop the ripples by touching them or getting in the water. It is by you calming yourself and permitting it to unfold naturally that the heart will open back up. There's no struggle here. People wonder why they don't like meditation, because they struggle. If there's one period of time that there should be no struggle, it's meditation. Because what it's trying to teach you to do is be okay regardless of what's going on. Well, what if I sit down and meditate? My mind doesn't shut up. Good. Say good. Well, what if I sit down and do my entire 15-minute meditation? My mind doesn't stop for 1 minute. Good. Great meditation. That's what you need to do. There needs to be this time in your life where you're not struggling, where you're not fighting with everything, fighting with the world, fighting with yourself, and so on. The purpose of it is, am I able to sit here and see what is going on in front of me? And in this case, because my eyes are closed, what's going on in front of me is my mind and my heart. Am I able to see this and just relax through it? Be comfortable with it. Because if you can be comfortable with it while it's going on in meditation, you can be comfortable with it in the real world. So it's really a practice. Meditation is a practice. It's not a way to achieve another state of consciousness. Your states of consciousness should be natural. And once you have them, they should never leave. They're not satori, little experiences you have. They're permanent states because you changed yourself sufficiently inside to where you don't have to do anything to achieve that state, anything to maintain that state. It is your state of consciousness. It's your state of being. Isn't that nicer? So it's not a matter of fighting your way through something. It's a matter of releasing yourself, letting go of the things that are getting you all caught up inside. And the funny part about the mind, which you'll find out very quickly, if you leave it alone, it will leave you alone. Just like the ripples. I swear, that's why they use that example all the time in the scriptures. If you leave the ripples alone, they will go away. And if you know they're going to go away, then there's nothing to do about them. They're kind of pretty. Hey, look, ripples. All right? It's because you can't handle them and you try to stop them. Your whole life becomes anti-ripples. Don't do it. Sit down and be you, the one who's noticing that the mind is or isn't talking. If the mind isn't talking, you notice the peace. If the mind is talking, you notice the commotion. Fine. Doesn't matter. I'm interested in you who's noticing. If you told me you could sit down and fight with your mind and force it to be quiet for 15 minutes, I'd feel sorry for you. Because you gain nothing. Because you have to fight with the mind. There's a reason that the mind continues to talk. Why don't we deal with that instead? Instead of stopping it, even though you have the reason that it keeps talking. Do you understand the difference? So you get to the point where you realize it's all about, can I maintain my center of consciousness, my awareness of being, even though the mind is talking and the heart is hurting. Do what you need to do. Work with it. And what you're going to find is that the only way out is the self, is the consciousness. You are aware that the mind is talking. You are aware that the heart hurts. Otherwise, how do you know? That's the beginning and end of everything. Just be aware. Just be aware. Keep letting go of whatever it's doing and be aware. And what's going to happen is you're going to realize, because it'll become obvious to you, you don't need me to tell you, that every single thing your mind talks about and every single reaction your heart has are learned experiences. They're not inherited. They're not genetic. They're learned experiences. If you had an argument with somebody and she didn't, the next time she sees that person, she feels fine. Next time you see the person, you get all uptight. It's a learned experience. You didn't get all uptight 2 days before when you saw the person. So it's just, you have these experiences and you don't know how to finish them. Nobody ever taught you that. It's not something we deal with in our culture. Nobody ever taught you that an experience has a beginning and an end, and it should be over. Every experience is exactly the same as the white lines you pass driving down the road. There you see them, then you don't. And they don't stay in there, do they? Got all your little white lines in there? No. But you did see them. They were functional and meaningful. They told you whether you could pass or not. They get all kinds of things. Then they're gone. Every single thing should be exactly like that. When it is gone outside, it is gone inside. It comes in, you experience it, feels good, it feels bad, has a reaction, whatever it is, who cares? But then it's done. It's over. That is how it's meant to be. You are capable of that. You just need to practice. You need to practice letting things go. You need to practice accepting that something caused a disturbance in the heart. If you accept that there are ripples, then you don't feel upset by them. If you're not upset by them, you don't feel the tendency to jump in and stop them. If you honor and respect that sometimes the mind makes noise and sometimes the heart doesn't feel good, and that's not a problem, then when something happens and it causes that to happen, you won't define it as a problem. It'll be like a white line driving by. Yes, we in a relationship and we had a little bit of a fight in the morning and so on. Doesn't mean I can't come home with love. It doesn't mean I have to worry about all day whether you still love me or what's going to happen or anything like that. No, that's ridiculous. Why are you perpetrating this thing? You fell over each other a little bit in the morning. So what? If you come home with love and you come home open and you're excited and enthusiastic, no one cares. Who cares what happened this morning? I care what's happening this evening. But you can't do it. And that's the problem. That's the problem, that you can't do that. That somehow you don't know how to deal with the mind when it's disturbed. You don't know how to deal with the heart when it's disturbed. You need to learn to do this. It is the essence of spirituality, it is the essence of personal growth, and it is the essence of bettering yourself and everything around you. So, I told you again, either out there because you can't handle yourself, trying to change everybody and everything so you feel okay. What a losing thing that is. You're in here trying to control and manipulate and change the mind because you can't handle that it is the result of what you stored inside of you. That is not going to get you anywhere. What will get you somewhere is to say, I'm sorry I stored this stuff inside. Ever since I was little, I was storing stuff inside. I am so sorry, mind. I should not have done that to you. I am so sorry, heart. What happened when I was 6 years old, my parents got divorced. It's not supposed to be in here anymore. It's not supposed to be every time I hear the word divorce, I start crying. 60 years later. I didn't handle it well. Therefore, it got stuck inside of me. I'm sorry. That's how you talk to you. You don't get mad at your mind. You don't get mad at your heart. You apologize because you, the consciousness, did not process things properly. And so there's a bunch of stuff stored in there. And so you start catching on that I got some work to do. I need to be able to handle what's happening so that I can release it. If you can't handle it, you won't release it. You'll fight with it. You'll struggle. You know what I'm talking about? So ultimately, the reason you can't handle what's happening outside is because you can't handle what's happening inside. And the reason you can't handle what's happening inside is because you stored all the stuff that bothered you throughout your entire life. So you now are the perfect image of what bothers you. If I took what's inside of you and put it inside of me, it wouldn't bother me one iota. What do I care when your parents got divorced? What do I care when your boyfriend left you? Couldn't care less, right? And likewise, if I took what's inside of me, stuck inside of you, all right? It's because you went through those experiences and they were difficult to you and you didn't process them, you stored them. So now anything that brings up the horror show that you have stored inside of you freaks you out. So you literally stored exactly what bothers you. It's the perfect collection of a nightmare. Is what you have stored inside of you. Every word everybody ever said that bothered you is still in there, isn't it? And anything that reminds you of it comes back up. All right, that's your work. So you see, it's not really about handling what happens outside. It's not really about handling what your mind is saying. Those are just reactions. It's about you, the consciousness, being able to handle the whole thing. And so this is what meditation is about. It's what mantra is about. I've been teaching you something about mantra lately. I don't give you mantras, but why would you do such a thing? Because right now when something happens outside, it hits your stuff and your mind starts yakety of what to do about it. You shouldn't listen to any of that, but you don't know how not to. So one way to not listen is to put your attention somewhere else while it's happening. So you start doing a mantra, God, 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 whatever you want. Om Namah Shivaya, Hare Krishna, I don't care, whatever it is. You just start saying something in your mind instead of listening to what your mind is saying. I like that one. That's a good line. You start saying something in your mind instead of listening to what your mind is saying. Because you don't want to listen to what your mind is saying. It's not going to take you anywhere you want to go. It's just your old nightmare coming back up. It's going to keep you caught. So you do these practices. There's lots of things to do. But remember why you're doing them. You're not doing them to achieve a higher state of consciousness. You're doing them to be able to handle reality that is unfolding in front of you. Because until you can handle the reality, you're going to struggle with it. You're going to make more of a mess. All kinds of stuff's going to go on. You're going to have problems. All right, so let's say you do that. Let's go on. So one way, how do you do that? Ultimately, the way you do it is by utilizing your will. You lose your power. The mind is going to try and pull you into it. The heart's going to pull you into it. And then you go into these dark spaces. I see it. I know beautiful people that go into such dark spaces. But there is darkness in there. Of course there's darkness in there. You built it. You blocked the light with all this stuff, with all the junk you stored inside. Of course it blocked the flow of light. It blocked the flow of Shakti. Yes, there's darkness in there, but don't I have to cop to it? No. What you need to do is let go of the stuff that is causing it to be blocked in there. You don't do that by getting into it. Nobody ever did better by getting into their darkness. I don't care what they tell you. What you need to do is let go of the cause of the darkness. And you have an opportunity to do that every single day when something bothers you. Every single moment, when every little thing irritates you and gets in your nerves and bothers your mind, let go. Just let go. Don't think about it. Don't rationalize it. Just use your will to step back and let it go. So to do this, you're going to use your mind some. There's nothing wrong with this. Along the way, these are stages of growth. You're going to find out that your mind can be your friend or your mind can be your foe. If something happens outside, your mind starts saying, I ain't even with him. I don't put up with this. It starts doing all that kind of junk. Your mind is your foe. It's pulling you into the dark side of your own self. If, on the other hand, you've trained your mind and it does the kind of things that I teach you, to sit there and say, it took 13.8 billion years for that person to say that to me. Gee, that was sweet, even though it was really terrible. Whatever it is, you use your higher mind to rise above your lower mind. That's called Jnana Yoga. You start saying, I'm sitting on planet Earth, and 1 out of 7 billion people just talked to me, and I couldn't handle what they said. Whoa. There's 7 billion people talking at the same time. You heard one, and you couldn't handle it. Thoughts like that help keep you out of the... All right? They're higher thoughts. So it's fine to use your mind willfully, consciously, in order to raise yourself so you don't fall down into the addiction of the mind. So if you are sitting there and trying to get off alcohol or trying to get off drugs, and then all of a sudden you feel this urge and your mind is saying, that's not going to hurt once. If we just go in and just hold the drink. I won't drink it. If I could just smell it. Oh, I like the smell so much. I think that would, what are you, crazy? Now, don't tell me that an alcoholic's mind does not talk like that. Do you understand that? All right? That's how it's so much trouble. That's why they teach them the way it is. But it's going to talk like that. Well, I need to do something to not get caught in that mind because I don't want to go with that mind. And it's hard not to listen to your own mind, isn't it? Right? So perhaps what comes in is you have a techniques they teach you in AA at different places. They teach you to use your higher mind, to think of God, to think of your family, to just something. Do something with your mind other than listen to the stupid thing that's telling you it's okay to go to the bar and smell the drink, because it's not. Or maybe it's telling you call your sponsor. The point is you're using your higher mind to stay out of your lower mind. Okay? That is a stage in your growth. There is nothing wrong with that. It is to be done consciously and willfully. It's not as high as just letting go. So the little things you can let go of, and the bigger things you work with yourself. But most important is you don't drop down. Now some people say to me, but don't we have to work it out? Isn't that suppression? Shouldn't I, if I feel pain, shouldn't I get into it? No. Sorry. I've done this for so many years, 45 years. Your states inside of you are habits. Just like food habits. Well, if I feel the urge to eat a whole lot of sugar and it's been making me sick, right? Shouldn't I have some sometimes so I remember how sick it makes me? What do you say to the person? No, it's a habit. You're trying to break a habit. It doesn't do any good. It's exactly the same inside of you. Exactly the same. Every single time you give in to depression, you give in to self-loathing, you give in to any of these things, you're reminding yourself how to go to that place. How do you like that? You're creating a neural pathway that leads to that darkness inside of you. I'm not denying the darkness. I'm saying there's a cause for the darkness. And you don't get rid of the cause by getting in the darkness. All right? It actually reinforces. It's a habit. The more you give into it, the more it happens. So the right thing to do, the highest way to deal with these things, is to develop a seat within yourself that when you feel the past patterns causing trouble, you are able to stay above it. Not suppress it, but stay above it. Keep your center. If you need to use your mind to do so, use your mind to do so. If you need to run, go run. Master Yogananda said, anything you do is better than giving in when you're trying to break those habits. If you're in a conversation with people and you have a tendency toward anger or fear, insecurity, or weakness, something like that, and the conversation is getting to the edge where you can see you're about to lose the pattern that usually comes back over you. This is Yogananda talking. This is a great master of will. He said, turn and walk away. Better to walk away willfully than to have something happen and take your will away from you. That doesn't mean you hide all the time or anything like that, but just you do the best you can to stay out of your stuff. And if the best you can is to take yourself out temporarily of the situation that you feel is stronger than what you can deal with, then that was the best you can. And that is a high thing to do. Is there any understanding? So I'm teaching you how to get out. You have to be able to handle what's unfolding in front of you. And this is how you build the strength within yourself so that you are transcendent to these forces that you built up inside of you. Ultimately, you let them go. Ultimately, by practicing the small things that happen every day, and you let those go, or leaving a little bit here, or making the shower a little bit colder than you like it, whatever it is, there's all kinds of little fun things. It's a toy. You're a toy. Just get it together to where you are the boss in there. The weakest part of your being is not running your life. You are. It's not a matter of being a renunciate. It's not a matter of something has to be exactly a given way. It's just a matter of, if I sit here and say, I don't want to give into anger anymore, just like I'm not going to smoke anymore, just like I'm not going to drink anymore, I'm just not going to lose it with anger. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. I'm not going to be so argumentative anymore. I'm going to be so defensive anymore. There's a good one. That every time something starts, I get the whole defensive inside, and my mind starts telling me what to say to defend myself. I don't want to be like that. And I get to have it be the way I want. I'm higher than that. I don't have to give in to all that defensiveness. It's all just fear. And so you practice. It's so much fun. Every moment of every second of every day, you have an opportunity to transcend yourself, don't you? You just do it with little things, and eventually you'll find you're there. You're just there all the time. There's never a moment you're not there. It's not like you're not there, then you come back. You're there. Call it becoming established in the seat of self. You do it by not leaving. The more you are there, present all the time, the less that the forces below you can draw you down into them. So now you're sitting in that state. Then you start using the tools from that state. Like I said, you can use your mind consciously. You use the willful mind in order to raise yourself. That's how you start seeing that I'm starting to get scared, starting to get anxious. Well, the minute I see that, I know I need to do something inside myself. I'm not going to wait for it to take over me. I can do something. I'm in charge. You are in charge in there. This is your kingdom. And so basically you do these practices to build your center. Now, the next state is once you're able to generally handle what's unfolding in front of you, because you can handle the reaction of your mind, you're going to start to work with your heart. You cannot stand one single chance of working with your heart, not actually working with your heart, until you've conquered your mind. Not that the mind is silent, but until you're capable of staying centered in spite of what your mind is saying, you will never get to your heart. Why? Because the root of the mind is in the heart. It is the heart's disturbance that is causing the mind to say what it's saying. She got hurt because of what she said. So now your mind's telling you what to do about it. Isn't it? Telling you it's not fair. It's like your mind is trying to distract you. The mind is a place that the soul goes to hide from the heart. If I can think about how to solve anything, what to do about it, if I can get even, I can do it. I don't have to feel what's going on here. So you try to hide in the mind. The mind is plenty disturbed. When you are able to not give in to that, to stay centered within yourself and just let the mind go, you have no choice. You will face the heart, because that's what's down there. That was what was causing the ripples that were going on in the mind, was the disturbance in the heart. But now that you've built the tools that keep you centered and you broke through the power that the mind has over you, you are ready to deal with the heart. It happens very naturally. Till you're ready, you won't get there. Now you're ready. And you'll see the heart is very powerful. Its feelings are very, very powerful. It's very, very strong. And you use the exact same techniques you use to transcend the mind to transcend the heart. You sit there, and sometimes the heart gets very uncomfortable. A spiritual being goes through burning in the heart that a regular human being would run so far away that it wouldn't even begin to know the time of day. It's like, because the heart is what held all this stuff that you stored in there. The root of all this garbage that you couldn't handle, you suppressed down into your heart. In order for it to go, it has to be released. And you have to be able to sit there and let it happen. You have to be willing to sit there with pain, with fire going on in your heart, and you just sit there. It's just something you see. It doesn't matter how strong it gets. And eventually you will go through a stage where it gets white hot. And that white hot is called the fire of yoga. The Gita has a line that says, that which is the darkest day of the man of the world is the lighted day to the yogi. And that which is the lighted day of the world of the man is the darkest night to the yogi. For a yogi who's into meditation, who's into transcending themselves, all of a sudden this fire starts in the heart. It's very hard to deal with. And they're going to start to notice it is burning up the samskaras. That's why they call it the fire of yoga. It is literally burning all this stuff you stored in there. And you just relax and relax. It doesn't matter how hot it gets. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just something you're noticing. And I'm having this talk because I want you to understand this is a good thing. You want this going on inside. It is how it burns all this stuff you stored inside. It's why yoga is such a high technique. It's the fire of purification. Why can't you handle it? Let's say I put a fire in front of you and it's really hot. You're looking at it, it's really hot. So what? Here's red. Here's really red. So what? It's a color. It's a feeling. There is no way you are not capable of sitting in there relaxing while the entire heart is on fire. It's just something that's going on, and you just relax. And at some point, you will break through. You will break through the heart. It's called piercing the heart chakra. You just relax enough through, and all of a sudden you'll find yourself on the other side, where you've never been before, or maybe for moments you did. And you'll never come back. You live on the other side of that. It's true spirituality. And from then on, it's nothing but love and peace and beauty. And you're not done yet, but it's a whole other stage once you pass through the heart. So you have these stages you will go through. But if you don't go through the earlier ones, you can't go through the other one. There's no way you're going to be able to handle the heart if you can't handle the mind. There's no way you can handle the mind if you don't understand there's nothing wrong with the world. It's just your mind can't handle it, all right? You can't deal with it. And so now you come to the other side, and then it all happens by itself. Once you come to the other side and you realize the beauty is inside of you, and there's nothing but love and nothing but Shakti and nothing but spirit and light going on inside of you, that has to happen for a prolonged period of time. It's not one day or a month or a year. For a prolonged period of time, you have to realize that no matter what happens in front of you, no matter what it is, no matter how big it is, good, bad, anything, it cannot touch you. It cannot even get within 7 billion miles of you. You live on the other side. Even if it bothers your mind is so far away, it might as well be in the next county. It's just something out there, like crickets. Here's crickets. Not bothering the talk, not bothering anything. If you want to listen to them, you can hear them, but otherwise, who cares? That's what your mind and your human heart become once you get to the other side. And then what happens is the Shakti, because you become comfortable back on that side, on the deep side of your being, then you start to really develop a relationship with the flow of the Shakti. It's really beautiful in there. And eventually it will lift you up. And it lifts you right past all the chakras. You don't have to do a single thing. You don't have to know about them. Just you will literally feel yourself raised past until eventually it's all 6th and 7th. It's all at the point between your eyebrows and the top of your head. And I don't mean you're focusing there. I mean it's pulling you there. That's what true yoga does. You can't even get yourself away from it. Day and night, it's pulling up in those areas because you have released it from the lower stuff. Now it has the right to ascend. It will take you there. I will send unto you the Holy Spirit, the great comforter, and through this all things shall be revealed unto you. You don't have to do a single thing. It's just that energy will lift you up. So this is the spiritual path. It's about your willingness to work on yourself at these very, very, very deep levels. And of course meditation helps, and of course mantra helps, and all these techniques. But they don't help if you don't do your work inside. There are plenty of people that go weekend meditations for years and years and years, nothing changes. They just talk about the experience they had. You do this, you change. This is about change. It's about transformation. It's about freeing yourself from yourself. It's fun. Make it fun. Something you do every day of your life. All right? work on these things. Jagrata.